Welcome, dear viewers, to a new episode of Dialogue Horizon. In this episode, definitely we are going to cover one of the most spectacular events which took place last week, which gave Sudan a floodlight, very concentrated and strong floodlight in one of the platforms, the international platform, the Paris Conference. Paris Conference is definitely a successful event, a successful rally for the first time to happen since 1989 during the governance of the Ousted regime, which managed and succeeded in isolating Sudan for complete 30 years out of the international community with all its interaction, with all its financial assistance and cooperation and integration, everything. Sudan was deprived for the last 30 years of this kind of cooperation. Sudan being a country very rich in resources, almost all resources, what it needs is the help, not actually the help, it needs the cooperation and collaboration with the international community, with its financial institutions, big financial institutions, so that Sudan can come back to a strong position by virtue of its resources. So in this episode, we will dedicate the whole episode to this event in Paris last week, the Paris Conference. Actually, it is not only in economics, but it also has a dimension, a political dimension, which shed light on the importance of a democratic transformation to full democracy with the leadership of the youth. The presence of important youth icons of the revolution was intentionally made as a signal that the international community is looking for important and active role for the youth, especially women. So we are happy to host in this episode our two of distinguished economists. We will touch a little bit, maybe we will touch a little bit on the other aspect, the political aspect, but this is very short. So we have our Dr. Hussam Ismail. Hussam is a doctor in economics and is specialized, as we said before, in something which is econometrics. Econometrics, which is something has to do with the measurement, which has to do with the comparison or evaluation. Anyhow, it's something very special in the field of economics. Also, we have our friend Dr. Yasser Al-Abeid, who has a good experience in some African countries, and his good contribution in the media and in the weekly journals. He writes articles about economics. So welcome, gentlemen, in this episode. First, I will start by our Dr. Hussam. How can you evaluate, in general, just in a nutshell, the event in itself from the economic dimension first, about the event of Paris? Can you tell us about your feeling or your evaluation, actually, of the event itself?
Okay, thanks for giving me the chance to appear in this episode for the third or fourth time. Unarguably, appearance of Sudan in such important conference will draw the attention of the whole world that Sudan is back again to the international arena in the domain of investment and in the domain of mutual cooperation, economic mutual cooperation between Sudan and multilateral parties in the whole world. Paris Conference succeeded to accentuate the importance of Sudan, the success of the Greater December Revolution, the importance of youth role in Africa and in the underdeveloped countries, and it drew the shed light on the endeavors being made by the transitional government to reintroduce and to rebrand Sudan in a new form that attracts the economic and financial aid of the whole world. I think in this part, the conference succeeded to accentuate the importance of Sudan, and it was one of the great endeavors being made by the transitional government civilian part to reintroduce Sudan again to the whole world.
Okay, that's good. Good stuff. Okay, Dr. Yasser, having heard Dr. Hussam saying that is a good event, big event, anyhow, it is something important which happened for the first time in almost 30 years, maybe since independence. That
It's true.
not only the 30 years, since independence of Sudan, it's for the first time the whole world concentrated where they converge in this conference, either by presence or by media or by TV, the canals, anyhow. It's important. But the question is, why, in your opinion, why is France was so enthusiastic in the preparation for this conference and in the invitation and in encouraging the international community? France played a very important role, which is a very good role. But in your, why do you think France was so keen to have this conference?
Thank you very much, Mr. Farad. I think so. Since independence, Sudan is, or North Sudan, even France is we know that is very closer to the African countries, and it's been present in every event and everywhere, especially in the center of Africa. In the center of Africa, France is presented there with different ways, and as we know, France is really came to Sudan. As we know, that is not one of its countries which has been under the colonize of France. But the importance of Darfur regions, which is closer to Chad, closer to Mali, closer to Burkina Faso, closer to all these rest of the country, which is France is really taking the care of.
They have interest on this area.
Yes, yes, taking care of this area. Sudan is a part of that. This is why there is a lot of competition between France and USA and other countries like Russia and German and UK. But the conference came in different way, not in that side of the presentation of the presence of France in Africa. As you know that even the name of the Paris Club, it is being named by France, which is all the countries under debit of international community and the central and the international bank and IMF. This is the 8 rounds, and we have this is the conference of Paris. It comes after 7 rounds, which is in Saudi Arabia and Berlin and the rest by the video conference and whatever. It looks like the final one in looking in Sudan problems, problems of the economic, like debits of Sudan, which is under the HEPIC and whatever. So France knows Sudan is very important because France, as we know, that after the crunch of the financial crisis in 2008, has so much problems. France is looking also for resources, and other countries also in Europe looking for resources. Sudan is one of the valiant countries which still has so much minerals there as rare elements minerals, which is plenty in Sudan. Sudan has so much gas and oil. France is looking for that. France is looking for power in Sudan. But the whole responsible of that is not only France, as you know, all the international community beside.
But France also has presence. France has presence in Sudan for quite a long time in gold mining.
It's true in
Ariab,
that
this is
in
the
in
company.
Ariab country. It's true. It's for almost more than 20 years. It is in Ariab, and one of the biggest country that discovered the Ariab area.
And they made
That is it came.
use of this gold and
It's
to
true.
mitigate the gaps in the financial gap.
It's
What was
true.
they-
Even it also is also is transferred a lot of technology to Ariab now. Ariab is all Sudanese parts. No any foreign elements there, and Ariab is still it needs a lot of. Maybe France can come again to at least to support that side of Ariab. Ariab it used to produce 5 ton per year, but one of the biggest company is still also now is producing 1.9. Has so much projects. I am 2 projects. One called VMS, volcanic passive sulfide, and CIL, carbon in leach. That France, if it come again, I think so. The expectation, the production can jump up to 9 tons, which is too high from one company, and has another project beside that. It can increase the project. I think
and France, by the way, I remind you, one of the most important cultural centers in Sudan, the French cultural center.
It's true.
It played a very important
It's
role.
true.
And
In culture,
if you remember, even Macron
it's true.
was in all his speeches, he's admired and he's talking about the revolution itself.
Yeah.
And he mentioned in his speech one of the 2 or 3 of the reiterated 2 or 3 of the songs.
It's
National
true.
songs of
It's
Sudan.
true. It's good.
This means that they have deep interest. Okay, Dr. Yasir, let us go to our friend, Dr. Hussam. Dr. Hussam, we have this is very important because you are actually your PhD on this, not economics only, the part of figures. Let us say to the viewers, figures, metrics, econometrics. So a lot of talk now is circulating about the outcome of the Paris conference regarding the debt relief or the HIPIC program. Can you just tell us and elaborate on this HIPIC? What is it? What are the prerequisites to be eligible for the HIPIC application? And the fact about the debt relief.
Okay, there is a gap between the expectations and reality post-conference. The Sudanese government, with Sudanese people, expected to partially being relieved from the $61 billion being accumulated since Nimeri time, since the 70s. Okay, and His Excellency Prime Minister stated that in the conference, post the conference after he arrived Sudan, that we are expecting to, in the coming days, in the coming period, coming weeks, to be relieved at least from 30% of this 61 billion dollar. Actually, the outcome of Paris conference shouldn't be segregated from the SMP, the Staff Monitored Program, because they are mutually tied to each other. To reach HIPIC point, there are many severe measures that should be taken in order to materialize the outcome of Paris conference. In Paris conference, we got pledges, which is the same, I think, which are the same pledges we got last year in 2020 after Berlin conference, and at the commencement of this year after Riyadh conference. So these pledges, to be materialized into a form of debt relief, loans, or financial aid, are all the time connected to the prerequisites of SMP and HIPIC point. And in this aspect, we read a lot about the hoaxes and maybe fake news being issued in the social media about how much we are relieved in terms of debts. Some news say $30 billion. Someone say, or some part of the news say $13 billion, which I doubt. Actually, only Norway released its $100 billion, France pledged, as per Reuters and credible news sources, that they will relieve or will annulate the $5.4 billion. Saudi Arabia also promised, between brackets, China also, and Kuwait. But up to this point, physically or officially, the government of Sudan did not receive any official news regarding relieving all these pledges. This is the first point. The second point, that explicitly HIPIC completion point requires more desubsidization of fuel or liberalizing the current fuel prices, which to some extent, in my opinion, if we oppose the procedure from the beginning or we agree with it, still is subsidized. Number two, they asked for, as per the recent report of S&P in April, they asked for floating the currency, and they asked for floating the custom dollar. And also they asked to remove the remaining subsidization of kilowatt. I think these four measures are the prerequisites and conditions to reach the completion point or to fulfill the...
What about the poverty? I think you forgot the poverty. The governments have to prepare some about how to the poverty program to reduce the poverty. Now the poverty line is very high. People below the is it one of the conditions or not important?
Generally, IMF, S&P programs or structural adjustment program do not focus much on income distribution. They focus on the aggregate variables. By the aggregate variables is meant the shape of the budget, the shape of the trade balance, the shape of payment balance, and inflation. But in what regards income distribution, reducing poverty line, these variables come in least priority. And in most of the time, they have a separate programs to reduce the shock, the social and socio-economic shock resulted from implementing the SAP, the Structural Adjustment Program. Back to the point, I wanted to say that to reach the completion point by June, by end of June or mid of June, we have promptly to comply with the whole condition being set by S&P, which is remove the whole set of subsidies, floating the currency, floating the customs dollar, etc. At this point, only this set of pledges being stated in the conference, in Paris conference, would be materialized. And I think still we have a lot of to do, respectless to the debate surrounding the issue of subsidization, desubsidization, reform program, etc. There have been a lot of debate, and I think we discussed that in the previous episodes about the side effects of S&P program. But respectless to that, unless we complete these 4 points majorly, we will not be eligible. And eligible for debt relief, complete or partial debt relief. And I think if the government did not set its program very quickly before June arrives, I think also we will have another extension, maybe up to September or December, regarding the issue of the $61 billion debt relief.
So it seems that Prime Minister Hamdouk is trying to catch up, because he mentioned that by end of June. So he knows the prerequisites, so he must expedite the requirement, this requirement, before the deadline comes, and we cannot tolerate more extensions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before this expedition, the government should materialize its support program, because these measures, these 4 measures, have very severe socioeconomic implications. They will increase the poverty line, political instability or social instability is also
Important
is also expected. Since if we desubsidize fuel more or more desubsidize fuel or float the currency or increase the custom dollar or devalue the custom dollar, I think inflation will increase at least by 3 to 4 times. This inflation, if inflation raises, certainly we will be facing, the government will be facing a strong wave of protests. So before end of June or mid of June, the government have to arrange a suitable program to do their measures. And by the way, another thing that has been explicitly mentioned during the Paris conference, which what the journals in France or the journalists asked Prime Minister and General Al-Fattah al-Burhan about the situation of the governmental or army companies. And they also asked about the incident of firing in the second memorial of the loss of the martyrs before the headquarters of the Sudanese army. These type of questions actually draw the attention to the way the West think about Sudan. And in such important conference like Paris, which is intended to attract economic aid, financial aid, investment, overseas investment to Sudan, when such questions are posed, I think the community of businessmen and the governing class should consider what's behind the lines, what behind the curtains of these questions, meaning that you have a lot of to do, a lot of things to do regarding enforcing stability, materializing judiciary system, setting more conducive investment environment, and adding some integrity and transparency to the budget. Okay, they have to show up.
Yes, you are right. That's exactly what Prime Minister Hamdouk tried today in his press conference. He said everything outside completely dependent on inside, what are going to do. So you are right, I agree with you. Okay, let us go to Dr. Yasir also. Dr. Hussam, he mentioned that there are prerequisites. Some are strong, some hard to be borne by the people. Already people are in trouble, skyrocketing prices of commodities, everything. So things will worsen a little bit before we get the actual debt relief or assistance. Okay, let us assume that by end of June we reach this point. Now Hussam is saying that is a completion point. They have 2 stages. This is the second stage, completion point. I think the first point is high point. Anyhow, the completion point. This should be followed by investors, the role of investors to come to Sudan. Do you think that the government went to Paris with enough projects? I heard that they have they carried with them suggestions or proposals for projects in different aspects, in agriculture, in animal resources, in mining, in infrastructure. Can you tell us about the type of projects which were presented by our delegation?
I think so the important and significant point in this Paris conference is the investment. We have to prepare ourselves now after the conference, after the Paris conference. We should prepare ourselves because what is being mentioned in the conference, all the projects in the whole sectors, in mining, in agriculture, in livestock and whatever, and even in power, in infrastructure. It is very important. All these sectors very important in Sudan, but we need of to prepare ourselves internally, and we do a lot of homework internally. So much problems going to face the investment and the foreign direct investment and portfolio investment and the rest of the investment and the financial market and financial institution and all this type of investment. We need of a lot of we have to change a lot of things here, especially in laws of investment. We have to change the investment code. We have to make it very attractive. We have to put all the things, starting from the laws and whatever, and to the lands, and how we have to prepare a full package. We need of a lot of conference internally now, with private sector and with the government, or even we can call international companies to come here in Sudan for investment, how we present our projects in Sudan. So we have a lot of problems. We have many projects, and strategic projects which has no studies, has no visibility studies. As you know that the financial institution cannot look to even to one page without a credit.
But what did they carry? We heard that they carried about 18.
Yeah, there is one is ready. So this part of it.
There are some
and that part of it is not that strategic projects. Projects which is going to solve part of the problem, which are going to solve imbalance in an economic. Especially in infrastructure, we need that. In power also, we have a lot of problems, we need that. But there is a lot of projects which should be prepared, because we may be expecting a lot of companies, multinational companies coming from USA, coming from Canada, or from Europe, or from China, or from Russia. We have to be prepared. We have to be prepared on that. There is some projects which is already, as been mentioned by Minister of Investment. He mentioned part of the investment in railways, in infrastructure,
in agriculture,
also also in mining, in power, also in power, and in oil. Oil, there is many studies in oil. More than 6-7 blocks has a proper feasibility studies is ready. Also, we need a lot of investment, especially with private sector. We have to look. We need the private sector should look for also investment, like transformation industries, like whatever, agriculture, in animal resources, and whatever. So we are in need of that, because we have so much problem and shortage. The raw materials is ready. We have a lot of raw materials in agriculture, in animal resources, in livestock, and whatever. And that one is in. You look at minerals. In fact, industrial minerals, one of the easiest investment, which is not, doesn't need a lot of technologies, which is ready anywhere in River Nile state, in Darfur, in South Kordofan, North Kordofan. It is ready, and that one is really like kaolin, like bozalanas, like all this, even potassium, like this is ready, even magnesium. This is all in the surface of the earth. Doesn't need even digging inside, internal, or whatever. That one, it is really we have to concentrate on that type of investment. The market, international market, is in need of that. This is not doesn't need a lot of investment. Even with our private sector, with any companies outside, we can let us do visibility studies with grass geological survey. We can do that one, and in no time, within 2-3 years, in fact, we can jump forward with like Tanzania, or like South Africa, or like Botswana, or like Mauritius, in that type of investment. This is going to make a lot of revenue in hard currencies in no time, maybe in 2-3 years. So that one, let us look at another investment. Oil, we have so much studies. Block 17 in the Red Sea, Block 14 in North, Block 12 in Darfur, Block 17 AOB in Gadarif. Those are having ready, and infrastructures of the oil completely ready. We don't have any problem in oil. Oil, we have a lot of infrastructures, pipelines ready. We have one of the biggest labs in Africa in oil, one of the biggest. And we have training center, one of the biggest. We have so much pipelines. So I think so that even the port, it needs just, we need just to do a little bit some work in the ports. But this, let's concentrate in such investment, not as just to expand our optimistic and go in different way. We cannot even catch one of the investment. Let us concentrate. We must concentrate.
But what about the other part? But there is a partner, actually. You are talking about who is when it comes to. Now, this is the first role of the Paris Conference, which hopefully by end of June we will get the breakthrough by including Sudan as an eligible country for HIPC.
Yes.
As Dr. Hitam said, these prerequisites, already the government started doing that. by floating the dollar. Bank of Sudan yesterday issued an important note which is
Yeah,
which it's actually floating the when you
the
make an
currency, yes.
what is
Auction.
auction like an
Auction, yeah,
auction.
yeah, yeah.
Auction.
They made an auction, yeah.
Yeah.
The auction
So we
is,
have to do a lot of work inside.
it's true.
Before I agree with Hisam's expectations. Don't put high
It's
expectations
true.
and forget your role. Now the door is open for you, for Sudan.
It's true.
We have to do enough so that we can benefit and reap the outcome of this.
This is why we should be ready internally.
Do you think we
as
are
the
ready?
Prime Minister, we should be ready internally. We
Do
do a
you
lot
think
of,
we are ready?
Sorry?
Do you think we are ready? The government is ready?
we are not ready.
Did our delegates took studies?
In such projects there.
There are. As far as I know, there are.
In oil there is.
They prepared good studies as
in
far
oil
as I
there
know.
is, in agriculture there is, in water maybe I think so there is. Maybe in minerals we need some more studies in minerals and but oil there, but
Okay.
minerals we need some
That's
some
good. So I think, as far as I know,
with
that
accredited house.
our experts here in different ministries, they prepared some studies, good studies in different projects. At least they have 18 projects, side project to be materialized, and they are actually presented. They will not be presented in the conference, but they will be presented to the participants from
in the
from the
conference.
international
Yeah.
private sector. Okay, if we go to Dr. Hussam again for still an issue which is causing confusion in the minds of. What about this bridge financing? The bridge financing, which, because as correct me if I am wrong, to be eligible or to be back to the World Bank and to benefit from its assistance, you have to pay a certain arrear, which was about 1.5 or about 0.25. It has to be paid. Sudan doesn't, as we all know that. So America brokered and intervened, which is we are very thankful to America. By this bridge financing, can you just give the viewer an idea about this? Because after that, after the financing, immediately America got back its money. Now America, we are not indebted to America, because they already got it from the bank by a loan. Is it a loan from the bank, or can you just clear this point?
Actually, it's a bridge finance, a bridge loan. And in the statute of the World Bank and IMF, and also I think IDA, the concept of the bridge finance reflects the essence of help. It's a sort of help or a stimulant to the poor country, to the specific poor country, to pay its arrears to either the World Bank or to a debtor. And the bridge finance also has some implications. In most of the time, the interest of the bridge finance itself is higher than the concessionary loans or the normal funds or the normal loans. And up to this moment, we have no idea actually about the terms of this bridge finance being presented by France, by the way. France thankfully volunteered to pay 1.5 billion to clear the arrears of Sudan towards the World Bank.
No, not France.
United States.
Not France, America.
To the United States. And previously, also Sudan was given a bridge finance also to clear its arrears to African Development Bank.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether these loans, 1.5 billion, is a fund or a loan, that's another issue. And I think there is some sort of ambiguity regarding the essence of the current 1.5 billion and the previous 400 million. In a conclusion, it's a positive step. We cleared 1.5 billion, okay, and that will help Sudan to jump to the next step. And also it's a stimulant, a good stimulant for the transitional government to be helped by the international community to close or to clear any or to bypass any hurdles in the way of engaging in the process of having bigger loans. That's a point. There is a point being discussed or elaborated by Dr. Yasser, which is the internal readiness or the homework. And I think the transitional government has a lot to do regarding what I have all the time being labeling as the internal battles. Okay, these battles regarding restoration of the corrupt banking system, the battles with the military partner regarding the clarity or his contribution to the budget, the judiciary system, the taxation system, the transparency of the budget, etc. These homeworks are very important to the Western community, and they reflect really the seriousness of the civilian part, the strength of the civilian part in managing the partnership and in fulfilling the objectives of the Great December Revolution. It's not only implementing SMP or HIPIC point, completion point. They are qualitative measures that should be taken, and they're very tough, by the way. They're very tough, and really it's a great test, a very difficult test for Prime Minister Hamidok and his cabinet in fulfilling these objectives. And as I stated, it's in the mind of the Western community and in the Western journalism about what's really happening regarding the transparency and implementing the judiciary system, the grey companies, the role of RSF, the role of army companies in the whole setup of the economy. No one will invest in Sudan. The great multinationals or overseas companies will invest in Sudan unless they are completely sure that the investment environment or atmosphere is conducive enough in the whole inside the whole framework. So it's a complex homework, and I think we have a lot to do. Independent economists such as myself, and there are also many independent economists being all the time accentuating this point, the internal solution. We have to do a lot in terms of clearing a lot of hurdles being inherited from the ousted regime. And before that, these measures should precede asking the external help. Putting in mind that the parliamentary governments of the West have a whole set of criteria, socioeconomic criteria, political criteria, technological criteria, okay, that determines really the will of the Western capital to invest in Sudan. It's worth mentioning that this is not the first time Sudan involves in such promising conferences. The first conference, I think, being labeled as a helper for Sudan was set in 1981 after the first devaluation of the currency. It was in Riyadh at that time.
1981?
81, okay, at Nimeri time, I think. And also, at that time we received a lot of pledges also. A lot of pledges. Another conference, I think, was set also at the time of the late Mr. Sadiq al-Mahdi in his second tenure in the second democracy. And so the issue of pledges is not new to Sudan. But effectuating these pledges, materializing them in terms of cash, in terms of courageous projects is the issue. And we should ask ourselves, as civilians, and the Prime Minister and his cabinet should really ask themselves, in the presence of the military partner, what are the hurdles in front of materializing these pledges? Why aren't these pledges up to this moment, after 3 conferences, Berlin conference in 2020, Riyadh conference in early 2021, and this conference, why are these pledges up to this moment being materialized? At least we are promised by $5.4 billion in 2020 Berlin conference. We did not receive less than 10% of these pledges. Okay, so I think we have a lot of things to do. We have strong homework, very difficult homework that should be resolved before going to Washington conference and to Tokyo conference.
Okay, that is very important what he's saying. I want you to elaborate on this. he asked a question. Pledges. This is a gateway to Sudan. Maybe this is the last because other not new. The pledges not new, and as we all know that the pledges are by respectable countries, financially controlled by private sector. Private sector is pragmatic. They don't know politics. They don't know. They look for certain criteria to be invested. So why we always lose the chance of the pledging? We don't pick up the pledges because the prerequisites to materialize the pledges, it seems to be simple, but it needs coherence of governance inside. So tell us, elaborate on this. Why we are always losing good chances like this, as Dr. Hussam said?
It's true, Dr. Hassam Zalili has mentioned a very important point. Start from the bridge loan, bridge finance, and the bridge financing, which in fact is very important after lifting Sudan from the terrorist list. The second issue it is the bridge loan or the bridge finance, which is being paid by USA. That one it is very important because the debt areas which cannot start to go to finance until you have to pay the debt areas. That one, our account in international bank, it is been frozen for more than 20 years. To activate that account, you have to put something there. This is why the bridge loan came to do that role. To do that role, to activate the accounts. The rest of the money is being paid by as a bridge loan by as Dr. Hussam mentioned, by France. That one is now we are in a way that we can receive all the finance without any problems at this time. The chances, which is not sometimes, the problem is not from our side. Even sometimes the problem is from outside. The international community sometimes promise something which cannot fulfill it, like Oslo, like whatever. And before, as we mentioned by Dr. Hussam, even since the regime of Nigeria and Sadiq al-Mahdi and whatever, and really they are trying just to make so much problem to the economic by imposing so much terms and conditions. We from our side, instead of we wait for the conditions, we have to present ourselves. We have to do that. Instead of just waiting for the terms and conditions from the international community, from the international companies, from the countries which is imposing that type of, we have to go for them. With our projects, we have to go to them. With our issues, we have to go to them with our resources and our wealth and whatever. So we have to look to give them some. The problem, even the international community and the international institutions, sometimes even they cannot fulfill what they say. So that's a problem of that. Even not all the problem from our side. Sometimes they can promise, they can't. They will give you more conditions. They put for you more condition. You have to do this and that and that. We didn't do that because this is why we didn't receive that. So let us put ourselves in what we have now and what we need to present ourselves. What we need to give the international community. What is the problem of the shortage of some things which is cannot get it outside. You can find it in Sudan. Sudan, location-wise, in fact, political-wise, security-wise, Sudan is very important. One of the important keys in Africa. So they can't now. 20 years they want to penetrate in Sudan. They can't because of that regime. They have problem with international community. This is why now it's a very good chance. The competition now, as we know that in Red Sea, we have seen how the competition is going, and how can we catch that chances? We don't know up to now what is the package of the stimulus there which should become to Sudan. For that competition between Russia and America in Red Sea. This is a very good chance for us. We have to impose our condition also. We have to put our conditions, what we need in our ports, what we need in what we need of in Red Sea. As we know that the Red Sea and that areas is one of the sensitive area in the world. 20% of the oil coming through that area of Red Sea and Sudan is a part of that. As we know that more than almost 45,000 ships from military, commercial, whatever, tourism coming through that side also. What is Sudan going to get from that? We have to put also our condition in that side.
Okay, but Dr. Yasser, yes, I agree with you, but as far as I know, not only Sudan, other countries, poor countries. By the way, the HIPC includes only 39 countries in the world, heavily indebted poor countries.
Yeah.
Sudan is one of this list, a very small list of 39, something like this countries. Some countries, they already benefited from this, they were eligible, so they managed, it is easy, they managed to fulfill. I'm sure these prerequisites are not put to Sudan only. This is a model, this is the matrix made when they prepared the proposal by the IMF or World Bank to offer this HIPC program, Dr. Hossam. So some countries, they managed to, like Rwanda, I think, Ethiopia, they benefit.
Yeah.
Why Sudan cannot benefit from this? We have about 4 minutes, Dr. Hossam. This is a very important issue. Why?
In my opinion, the singularity of Sudan adds up some difficulty that has some strategic dimension. Okay, so Sudan is not a normal country for the West. Sudan, as Dr. Yasser said, is richly endowed with huge dormant resources that enable Sudan to be a great country. Unlike the other countries you mentioned, like Ethiopia, Haiti, for example, Rwanda. Okay, Sudan is a potential. Sudan lies in the middle of Africa, and the whole set that we know about the importance, the strategic importance, the economic importance of Sudan. This importance of Sudan should be the major stimulant to the transitional government to play strategically with the whole world. I have been always criticizing implementing the single choice strategy, which in my opinion being adopted by the cabinet of Prime Minister Hamidok and his three Minister of Finance, Dr. Badawi, Dr. Hiba and Dr. Jibril. This single choice, and even by FFC by the way, this single choice strategy inclines solely to the West. After the great December Revolution, and as per the constitution document, which stated clearly that we should be at equal distance from the whole world, a lot of multidimensional endeavors should be our interface to the whole world in terms of economic investment. So we shouldn't rely only on the West. This is my opinion. And this reliance is adding some sort of weakness. It represents some sort of weakness of this government towards the West. And in the strategy, I think when this second part or the other part has a feeling that you are only relying on him, he starts instinctively to impose his own terms. And these terms, most of the time, are very difficult terms. So we have to look east, maybe, to China, to India, to disseminate, to do such a conference like Paris conference. Why should it be in Delhi, by the way, or in Beijing, or in Singapore, or in Malaysia, okay, or in any other country that succeeded in getting out from below the zero to the auspices of welfare, growth and development with least reliance on World Bank and IMF.
Okay. So, as I told you that we have very short time, but
It's
maybe
very important point.
what
is been mentioned. It's been mentioned that to go to the east. I think so.
But
it's very important at this time.
I beg to differ.
Let's look for that. Also, we have to look for our benefit.
Okay, Dr. Yatur, I beg to differ. Both countries used to mention the other side. They did not offer anything. These people, they offered.
The BRICS countries, I think so.
I disagree with you because the Eastern Bloc, China, no, they did not. But they initiated this program to help Sudan. So you cannot say no. Let me check. You go to the one who
we are looking for our
try
benefits.
to salvage.
Why shouldn't we initiate and market ourselves?
Yes.
we should initiate. We should do something.
We have potential.
Anyhow, this is
We have
this-
potential.
this-
We have a lot of potential. We can market ourselves in anywhere.
But always look for the person who is looking at you and
We are
prepared.
looking for conditions,
But what about
terms and
China?
conditions only. We are
China
not
is still fighting to Russia and the East is weak because they are not very strong.
China,
financially.
India, China.
We are talking right now about the political calculus of these initiatives, which is good. We should prepare our political calculus well,
to meet
do
this.
well calculations in order, as Dr. Yasser said, to look for our own benefits and interests.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a very hot issue. Maybe next week we'll come up to discuss this, where to lean. Thank you, dear viewers, for being with us in the last hour in this important episode of Dialogue Horizon on the outcome of the Paris conference. I have to thank our guests here, Honor Dr. Sam Ismail and Dr. Yasser Abed, for being with us. Hope to see you next week in a different topic or episode in a different issue. Thank you and bye.